Little Shop of Horrors.
So, the Frank Oz musical classic Little Shop of Horrors is a film that if I saw it when I was a kid. I have memories of it. But I don't know if it's memories that are like from clips on TV or I watched it as a kid. But like my memory of this film is literally just like Rick Moranis, the talking plant, the theme song to a degree, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Right. So regardless if I saw this or not, I don't really have any memory of it, so it might as well be a first time watch. So we'll just call it a first time watch. I honestly don't know if it is or not. Is it for you?
Yes, I saw the 60s one when I was younger, and
Right.
I was probably about like 13 or so, but I had never seen this one, which is kind of shocking because I love musical theater.
I definitely have never seen the 60s one. I think it's isn't it from 1960 or is it?
I thought it was like 1963, but I'm not
Okay.
positive.
Okay.
Yeah.
All I know is Jack Nicholson is in it to some degree because he's on the cover of the VHS that I have, and I know they put that on there just to sell it.
Yeah, I
So
have
he could be in there for 5 seconds. He could be in there for bigger part. I have no idea.
I don't remember him at all. I'll say that. I have a very like vague memory of it in general.
Yeah.
So
I can say a couple things. Number one, this movie is way more beloved than I realized. So I posted about this in my private Sinister Cinema group on Facebook, and it got 100% heart reactions, which like never happens, and from a lot of people. So I was like, oh wow, this is like, and then just the comments were all, oh my god, I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. I didn't realize it was this beloved. I knew people liked it. I didn't know people loved it.
I knew it was like a cult classic for so many people. It's like up there with like Rocky Horror Picture Show in terms of nostalgia and just like love.
Another film that I know I saw parts of, if not the whole thing, when I was a kid. I remember like Sweet Transvestite, and I remember that kind of stuff, but I don't know if I've ever actually watched the whole thing through.
Yeah, that's the next one we're gonna watch, because I watched that several times when I was younger.
Oh, I'm sure.
And it's fun because that's the kind of one that they do like the what are they called? Like when you go to the theater and people are like acting it out. I feel like there's a name for that I don't remember, but anyway. I have lipstick on my mouth.
Little bit. Looking like Audrey 3 over there. You did. And secondly, I will say that this, for me, would be easily... So, La La Land is my favorite musical. Hedwig and the Angry Inch is my second. And then I have a few from there that I really enjoy. But this would probably be... like potentially number 3.
Oh wow!
This was
I'm
like
so glad you loved it that much.
Pretty much a masterpiece to me. I thought this is one of the best films that I've watched in recent memory. Especially like this is the best film I've watched that I haven't seen from the 80s since Ghost Story, which we watched that and I was like, oh wow, this is phenomenal. This is one of those films I wish I had seen my whole life. This is another one. This is like, there's a reason so many people love this. The music is fantastic. The humor is wonderful.
Yes.
The puppetry, just everything. Because it feels like a stage play brought to life, but then expanded into this film. And it really kind of walks the line of both, where everything kind of takes place on the same set and street.
Yeah.
Which is a really fun way of making it feel like a stage play, but also feel like a movie at the same time. Yeah. Which I really appreciated that. And man, the humor here between Steve Martin, Bill Murray, and John Candy, 3 just phenomenal... I'll say 2 phenomenal cameos. Bill Murray and John Candy are both hilarious in their minutes that they have. They're probably in the movie 2 to 3 minutes each. Steve Martin, on the other hand, is in this movie probably 15 minutes. I didn't realize he was such a big player in this, and this is one of the funniest he's ever been to me. I mean, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is going to always probably be my favorite film he's ever done. He's fantastic in that as Neil Peart, but Neil Peart. Oh, he's a fucking drummer now. No, Neil. Why Page? Jeez, I couldn't. For some reason I couldn't pull that out of my head. But he is so fucking funny as this like sadistic dentist who like grew up hurting animals. There's such a darkness to the humor in this.
Yeah.
They're like, this is the kind of film. I'm sorry, I want to let you talk. This is my last thing I'll say. I'll let you talk. This is the kind of film that could it be made today? Sure. But I don't think it would land as well today because so much of the humor is so dark in its substance. It really kind of blew me away. Like a lot of the humor of Audrey, Rick Moranis' love interest in this, Seymour, is her abusive relationship, and she keeps showing up with different injuries, whether it's like a black eye, which she like, you know, does her makeup around, or her broken arm, which she like accessorizes her outfit to like work with her arm, and just like the jokes around how her boyfriend's beating her and she can't do anything about it, and there's so much humor around it.
Yeah.
But it feels so sweet and sincere. And then same thing with like the dentist, where he's talking about like how he murdered puppies and you know, tortured kittens, and he was just bound to be a dentist. And it's like, that's funny because, you know, so many people connect pain and misery with dentistry, and it's like only a sadist would want to be a dentist, right? Like I get the humor behind it. It's just that kind of humor that I just feel like today there'd be a lot of people like, that's not funny. You can't joke about those things. Like, you're joking about killing puppies, torturing kittens, and abusing women. And it's like, somehow this film still feels very, like, I would show this to my kids 100%. It feels like a family film.
Yeah.
Even though it's dealing with these super, super dark themes.
Yeah. I loved this as well. I thought it was so good, and like what you were saying about like the set and everything, that was one of my favorite parts because it has a very theatrical feel to it.
Yeah.
Which I love, especially when musicals, like I love all kinds of musicals, but when it feels like it's on stage, like there's something so magical about that, and like knowing it's this contained world, and I don't know, I really loved it. But everything that you said too, like the humor, the music, obviously Audrey 2 is probably my very favorite part. Like, it's insane just watching it expand from like the tiny little plant that it starts out as into what it becomes, and the puppetry in that is incredible. Like, it's incredible. It looks so fantastic, and I thought it was really funny, like the whole movie, but it is sad. It's like a really like sad, dark humor. And even like the opening when they're singing about like being home on Skid Row and stuff, like all these like homeless people and like poor people that just have like horrible lives, and I don't know. It's very charming. It's a really, really charming film. And it's so memorable. It's definitely one of those things that, like, when you watch it, you'll never forget it.
Yeah.
And like you, I wish I had seen this version, like, earlier, because I watched the one from the 60s, because I remember hearing people say, like, oh yeah, Little Shop of Horrors, like, it's so good, and I don't know, I guess I didn't, like, Google or, like, figure out that there was one from the 80s that is what people were referring to. I don't understand how I missed that, but I was also into, like, older movies at that time as well, so I was like, oh, maybe it's the one from the 60s, and that's the only one I watched.
Yeah.
Very different. So, but, yeah, it's so good.
You know, and I'm not a hater of CGI. I mean, I defend it quite often. I think it has its place, and there's places where it's phenomenal. I mean, I always use like Avatar: The Way of Water these days as like this example of like you can't do that. I mean, we just watched Godzilla Kong movie, the new one, New Empire,
which is like 100% CGI.
Yeah, it's like a cartoon.
Yeah,
but like in those instances, like you can't do this practically. It's just impossible. Like it is what it is. And to look the way they want to do it, and to doing what they're doing, there's just not. There's no way. You know, you can do some things, I suppose, practically, but not in that way. To the point, though, with this kind of movie, if they made it today, Audrey would be CGI.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of this stuff, it would be lost, and the art on display here, because CGI is a whole different art, and it's fucking phenomenal artistry. Like, a lot of people get dogged out for CGI, and it's like, man, literally thousands of people put in hundreds and hundreds of hours, thousands of hours on meticulously crafting the most realistic looking thing that they're putting up on like an IMAX screen for everyone to look at. It's fucking hard work.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't want to ever take anything away from CGI. It's an incredible art form into itself, but like this is a whole different one, and this was before that was even an option. And the practical effects on display here with Audrey, and of course the like almost kaiju freaking monster battle at the end.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Which I guess somebody had commented saying that there is some alternate ending where it was like a kaiju battle of some sort. I didn't look into it, but I just saw that. But it still kind of reminded me that of that anyway, where it's like up on top of the Statue of Liberty, and there's like 100 of them running around the streets, and that whole ending scene is pretty large scale for what this kind of movie looks like, being that like one little set kind of thing. But I was so blown away by the puppetry on display here, and I feel like because this film is more silly toned and playful, it doesn't get taken as seriously. I know people do give it its credit, right? People love it and they give it its credit for its puppetry and stuff. But I feel like something like this with Audrey and the how it grows and as a character and you know, it exponentially you know, enlarges throughout the film and has so many different looks and even grows before our very eyes. I feel like American Werewolf in London and The Thing and The Blob and these movies that always get so much praise for their practicals, I just feel like these kinds of films are always left out, and it is a shame, because I feel like what we're seeing in this movie is as impressive as anything we see in The Thing.
If not, I mean, okay, it's maybe, I don't know if it's more impressive, but there's a big difference to me, because like what we see in The Thing is like it's practical effects, but in this, it's a character. Like Audrey 2 is a whole character. So it's not just like, oh, we're watching the plant grow and like it's doing stuff. Like it's growing, but it's also interacting with everybody. And I feel like, you know, what we're getting in The Thing, like, yeah, you know, in various stages, like The Thing is interacting with the different characters, but not in the same way that Audrey 2 does, which to me is like, it's different. And that's why it's my favorite part of the film, because I love puppets in general, and I think that it's really sad that we don't have them in film the way we used to have them.
Yeah.
And something like this, where it's, especially in horror, like it just shows you just how much potential there is, especially when you're trying to make like this alien creature, or, you know, something that's not human. And it's really astounding.
He's not human. Yeah, I mean, they definitely got, or I'm assuming this was his passion project or whatnot, but you couldn't have had a better person, should I say, take over the helm here than Frank Oz. Obviously with his years dealing with Jim Henson and working on all the Muppet stuff, and directing The Dark Crystal alongside of Jim Henson, and directing Muppets Take Manhattan, as well as obviously being a voice actor for so many different beloved characters, most notably Yoda. Frank Oz is just an incredible talent, and it was great to see him working with Bill Murray here, especially since I love his film What About Bob so much. So yeah, Frank Oz, I can't say enough good. I also, getting back to Steve Martin, his every single thing from him is funny, but every single thing with his motorcycle is even funnier. The way he rides in to the alley and he literally like flies in and just hits the wall and then just jumps off, or like when he goes to park his bike and he just jumps off of it and lets it, he kind of like puts his hands up and lets it stop itself and park itself.
It's so good.
That shit's amazing.
He has like just like perfect physicality with humor. Like that's definitely something that I don't feel like we get a lot. I mean, I don't watch a ton of modern comedies, but like when I think about modern like comedy shows, for example, like TV series, I feel like all of the humor comes from like wittiness and like the jokes, and like that's fun, like don't get me wrong, but the 80s and like Steve Martin in particular, like the physical humor, like the slapsticky kind of humor, was much more of like a common occurrence, and that doesn't always work for me. Like I'll definitely be the first to admit, like I'm not always like that doesn't always get me, but in this for sure, he's so funny. He's probably the funniest character aside from maybe Audrey, because but Audrey's like funny in like a really pitiful, like sad way. Like she's so sweet.
Oh, Audrey, not Audrey.
Not
2.
Audrey 2.
Okay.
Audrey is so sweet. Her little voice and just like all her like cute little tiny outfits, because she's like so skinny, but she's like massive cleavage somehow.
Yeah.
Adorable. She was so adorable.
Ironically, Kaylee mistook her for Rhea Perlman and said, "Isn't that Matilda's mom?" And this is just a cute little anecdote on the side here. I found it super ironic. We literally just passed, she hovered over Leon the Professional for a second right before we put this on. And when she was like, "Isn't that Matilda's mom?" I was like, "You mean Matilda, the movie Matilda, the Danny DeVito movie?" And she was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "No, but she is Matilda's mom. Matilda, in Leon the Professional, played by Natalie Portman, which you just hovered over for a second." I found that to be super bizarre.
Yeah, that was a really
Matilda,
weird coincidence.
Yeah, is the name of the character, and her mom is played by this actress. And it was like, no, it's not Matilda's mom, but it is Matilda's mom, and it's the movie you just hovered over 5 seconds ago. Yeah. So, not 5 seconds, but like 10 minutes ago. So that was super bizarre. Anyways, moving on. Everything. I mean, I will say this. And this is always a bummer when you love a film and there's stuff in it that you are genuinely bummed out by. That you're like, oh man, like I wish it went a different way. It makes perfect sense, and I love how this movie ends, and it's all like crazy and wild. But man, Seymour wants Audrey so bad. She wants him so bad. Their lives suck so much. Yeah. He tries to do the right thing. He never kills anybody. They kill themselves or get killed or whatever, and he just feeds them, their bodies to him. And it's like, they couldn't have set up a worse character in Steve Martin. Like, he's fucking plant food. Like, we don't care. Yeah. Right? He's funny, and I'm sad that his humor's gone, but the person himself, yeah, he's good to go. So it just bummed me out when I thought he was saving her, when he's pulling her out and he pulls her out. I was like, and then she's like, "No, feed me to him." And I was like, "No." And then he does, and then he gets eaten too. Yeah. And then it's just like world domination. Yeah. And everyone's running in like it's fucking Tickle Me Elmo.
Which we were also laughing though, because like in the beginning, they put Audrey too.
Nobody wanted it.
Yeah, but everybody's like, "Oh my god, that weird plant! Like, whoa, I gotta see it!" And then they're just all buying other.
I want $100 in roses instead.
Crazy.
Not one person tries to buy Audrey too.
But then, of course, at the end, after all this
that's all anyone wants. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I'm sad that Audrey and Seymour don't get together, but that's the tragedy and the horror of it. Like,
Yeah.
so I also love that aspect too, in a way.
And another thing, I'm with you on this. I'm not surprised because it is a musical and it is beloved, so I would assume this is probably the case. But just from the look of him, I wouldn't have thought Rick Moranis would have had a good voice.
I had no
But
idea.
he killed it.
All I think of him from, I'm sure I've seen him in other things, but
Ghostbusters?
no.
Oh, Honey,
Honey, I
Shrunk
Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah.
That's like the movie I watched the most of his when I was younger. I haven't seen it in years, and it definitely makes me like, I want to watch it with the kids to see what they would think. But yeah, he's got a great voice, and he does a great job. He's like I just love the musical theaterness of it all. Like his everybody's acting in this is so musical theater. It's so like stagey and like campy and corny, but like good. And I thought he had a great voice, and I really loved his performance.
Yeah.
I really like the scene between him and Audrey too, and Audrey's like, I need you to like when it's the Feed Me Seymour segment, and like just their back and forth before it starts and everything. Like, it's so good.
For Rick Moranis is for me. I mean, I grew up on Spaceballs and Ghostbusters and all these like 80s classics that he was a part of. So I don't know. I think when I think of him, the very first thing that comes to my mind is Ghostbusters. But Honey, I Shrunk the Kids makes sense because it was a series like of films that he was in as the main character, and typically he gets kind of pushed to that secondary role, that supporting kind of goofball in the background. As far as the physical humor, I agree, there's not a ton of them as much anymore that I've noticed. The only person off the top of my head who I love the way that they emote their humor with how they use their face or their body or whatever to make me laugh is Andy Samberg. He's got a great physical comedy presence. Just everything he does with his face is hilarious to me, whether it's in Hot Rod or whatever. I still haven't seen Pop Star, which is crazy because everyone who loves him loves that, and it's like their favorite movie of his, so I do need to watch that at some point. But I want to watch Rocky Horror now for sure.
Yeah, I was really into Rocky Horror when I was in high school, and I'm really excited to like revisit it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have it on VHS, but I would like to watch more of a
cleaner version.
A clean version.
I think that you'll like it because it has that kind of humor too. Like I remember it having some pretty dark humor, and it's like it definitely has that culty, but it's different. It's not like a set like this. Like there's locations in that.
I'm just looking forward to Susan Sarandon in the 70s because she was such a babe back then.
Yeah.
So yeah, I look forward to that, and this was very exciting. It's not often, right, that I have like some classic horror-ish movie that I haven't seen. There's only a few left.
Yeah.
They kind of are on the very edges. There's just nothing left for me. So it's great to see something like this where I'm like, this is a blind spot for me. And Rocky Horror is another one. But these are just musicals. And I was never a big musical guy growing up until I saw Hedwig. And then that really kind of opened me up. And then I watched like Moulin Rouge, which I really liked or loved at that time. And but I've just never been a big fan, as you know, of the musicals where every word is sung. And they get to me.
Yeah.
I like dialogue.
Yeah.
And then breaking into song, those work for me. I don't think I've ever watched a full sung musical I've ever enjoyed.
Yeah, this one is definitely it has dialogue and it breaks into song, and that's what makes it so fun too, because it's like people just kind of start singing, and like the other thing too, I really love the chorus, the three women that are kind of just like in the background, and they're like popping up and having like outfit changes and stuff. Like I love that feeling of like it's just very unreal, but I don't know, like, it's also wonderful.
Yeah.
I would love to have Audrey too in our living room. Like the
Full
puppet.
size.
Yeah.
The whole thing.
Wouldn't that be crazy though? That would be so cool.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I'm sure a lot of you will be surprised that neither of us has like really seen this movie.
Yeah.
But that's always fun. I mean, I have to have some things I haven't seen. I can't see every movie, guys. Just
Not yet.
there's oh my god, there's millions of films, and I've seen most classics, like from all genres. This was just one that's always passed me by, and it's good though because you know how many times have you said in your life, and I've said this plenty of times, where you meet someone and they haven't seen this or that.
Yeah.
They haven't seen The Shining. They haven't seen Halloween. They haven't seen whatever, and you always say, oh man, I wish I could watch that for the first time again.
Oh, sure.
You know?
Well,
and so I'm getting that with this one. It's like one of those rare instances where I get to sit back and go, I am getting to watch this for the first time and experience it in a way where it's like, I feel like if I grew up on this, I'd probably love it even more. But
yes, yeah,
I don't know how much, because this was phenomenal. This is like a 10 out of 10.
I think it would just have the nostalgia factor too. But
sure.
The other thing too, because this doesn't happen often. Usually, you're the one like showing me classic films or films that are staples or whatever that I haven't seen. So it's rare that we both get to watch one together.
Oh, very rare.
Especially one that we both love so much. So
Ghost Story.
Yeah, Ghost Story was one. This is another one. I don't know any others because you've seen...
Peeping Tom.
Oh yeah, Peeping Tom.
Peeping Tom.
Yeah. But yeah, like so it's exciting to
very
find
rare.
ones like this. Yeah.
Very rare.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely let us know if there's any other horror musical classics. I showed her Phantom of the Paradise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Eric's Revenge was another one that we watched together.
Phantom of the Mall.
Yeah.
Yeah, that didn't have any music.
No, it didn't, but I was just saying a fan of the opera.
All right, guys. Let us know what you think of this classic. And if you haven't seen it, now's the time.
Watch it.
Check it out.
Go watch it.
Yeah. All right, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Little shop of horrors.